You know, your arms and legs, they might seem totally different, right? But what if I told you they're built on this secret shared blueprint? Today, we're not just going to list off a bunch of bones. No, we're going to explore the appendicular skeleton as this brilliant story of design, of trade-offs, and the incredible engineering that lets you move through your world.
So, here's the game plan. First, we're going to uncover that shared blueprint I was talking about. Then, we'll get into how our limbs actually anchor to our body. And this is where we see this classic trade-off between being able to move freely and just being strong. From there, we'll journey all the way down to our hands and feet. And finally, we'll see how your own skeleton tells a very personal story.
All right, let's kick things off. The appendicular blueprint. The whole idea here, the big takeaway, is that our arms and legs, even with their super different jobs, are basically built on the exact same pattern.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? Your arm and your leg? At first glance, they seem like they're from different planets, right? One's for grabbing stuff, throwing a ball, the other's for walking, running. But if you look just a little bit closer, this surprisingly elegant pattern starts to pop out.
And here it is. This is the blueprint. And it's so simple. It's beautiful. You start with one single, strong bone close to your body. That's step one. Then you've got a hinge joint that connects to two smaller bones. That's step two. After that, you get to this complex little joint made of a bunch of small bones, and that leads finally to your hand or your foot. Think about it in your arm. That's your humerus, then the radius and ulna, then all those little carpal bones in your wrist. It's the exact same pattern in your leg. This one bone, two bones, many bones structure, that's the secret sauce for building limbs that are both incredibly strong and super nimble.
Okay, so if the limbs themselves share a design, how do they hook up to the rest of the body? Well, that brings us to their anchors, the shoulder and the pelvic girdles. And let me tell you, this is one of the clearest examples of a major design trade-off you'll find anywhere in the human body.
And this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. On one hand, you've got the shoulder girdle, the clavicle and scapula. Its whole reason for being is mobility. It's kind of loosely attached, which is why you can swing your arm all over the place. But then you've got the pelvic girdle, and its job is the complete opposite, stability. It's a solid, fused, rigid ring of bone that's designed to do one thing really, really well: bear the entire weight of your upper body.
Yeah, think of your shoulder like a mobile crane. And the most important piece of that crane is your clavicle, your collarbone. It acts like this little strut, literally pushing your arm out and away from your body. If you didn't have it, your arm would just kind of hang down by your ribs, and you'd lose all that amazing ability to reach out, to throw, to swing. It's a total game changer.
And what's really cool is you can feel this strut for yourself right now. The source material points this out, and it's awesome. Go on, try it. Take your fingers and trace your collarbone. Start right there in the middle of your chest, and just follow it all the way out until you hit that bony point on your shoulder. That little connection point you're feeling, that is the framework, the very thing that gives your arm all that incredible freedom. Now let's flip the script completely and talk about the pelvic girdle. If the shoulder is a crane, the pelvis is the rock-solid foundation of a skyscraper. It's made from three separate bones when you're a kid: the ilium, ischium, and pubis, but they all fuse together in your late teens to form this one massive, solid structure called the os coxae. Its job isn't about fancy movements, it's all about providing a powerful, stable base for standing, walking, and running. Okay, so let's move down the chain from those anchors and see how that whole one bone, two bones blueprint actually works in the limbs themselves. And right away, you see that form follows function idea in action. The single bone in your upper arm, the humerus, it's designed to plug into that supermobile shoulder. But the single bone in your thigh, the femur, that thing is an absolute powerhouse. It is the longest, the strongest bone in your entire body, making up about a quarter of your total height. And it has to be that strong because it's plugging into that stable pelvis and supporting all of your weight. And this is such a brilliant example of why having two bones in the forearm is just genius. See, the radius actually pivots. It rotates over the ulna, which stays put. And that one simple action is what allows you to pronate and supinate your hand. Or, in normal speak, turn your palm down and then back up. Seriously, try it. Pretend you're turning a doorknob. That twisting feeling in your forearm, that's the radius literally rolling over the ulna. It's a kind of movement you just couldn't get with a single bone. No way. Okay, we've made it all the way to the end of our limbs. And this is where that master blueprint gets tweaked for two totally different, highly specialized jobs. You've got the incredible dexterity of the hand versus the heavy-duty supports of the foot.
Let's start with the hand. The wrist alone has 8 tiny bones called carpals, and trust me, remembering them all can be a nightmare. But the source material gives us this awesome little mnemonic to help out. Okay, you ready? Starting from the thumb side, on the row of bones closest to your arm, just remember the phrase, so long to pinky. That's for scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. Then you just move to the next row, again starting on the thumb side, for part 2. Here comes the thumb, and that gets you hamate, capitate, trapezoid, and trapezium. Pretty handy, right?
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just, wow. The hand has those 8 tiny carpals that allow for all that fine, delicate movement. The foot has 7 larger, much beefier tarsal bones built for pure stability. But look, the underlying pattern is still there, isn't it? 5 bones for the palm or the arch, and 14 bones for the fingers or the toes. It's the same kit, just adapted for 2 different purposes. One for grasping, the other for balance.
So why does the foot have to be so beefy? Why is it built so differently? Well, it all comes down to this one number, 2.5. When you're running, the force slamming into your foot every time it hits the ground can be 2.5 times your entire body weight. Think about that. Your foot isn't just a platform, it's a high-performance, biological shock absorber.
So how on earth does it handle all that force? Well, the secret is in its arches. When you land, the arches of your foot actually flatten out a little bit, absorbing all that energy like a spring. Then, as you push off for your next step, they rebound, giving you that spring in your step. It is a brilliant piece of natural engineering that lets us run and jump. And get this for a cool comparison. The source material points out that animals that don't have arches, like elephants, literally can't jump. The impact would just fracture their bones. Okay, let's wrap all this up and see how these anatomical details aren't just stuff in a textbook. They actually tell a story about our evolution, our hormones, and even the stuff we do every single day.
The pelvis is a perfect example of this story in action. While every pelvis is built for support, the influence of hormones like estrogen during puberty typically leads to some key differences. So a pelvis that develops under higher levels of estrogen is generally wider and shallower with a more rounded pelvic inlet and a wider angle right at the front. This shape is a clear adaptation for childbirth. On the other hand, a pelvis that matures under the influence of higher testosterone tends to be heavier and narrower, really optimized purely for supporting a larger, heavier body frame.
And our skeleton story is also told through our injuries, right? We all have that reflex. If you start to fall, you instinctively throw a hand out to break the fall. Well, that very common action often leads to what's called a Colles fracture, which is a break at the far end of the radius. It's actually the most common forearm fracture, especially in folks over 50, and it's a direct result of our anatomy interacting with the physics of the world.
So, when you think about it, from the mobile crane of your shoulder to the solid foundation of your pelvis, from those clever rotating bones in your forearm to the natural springs built right into your feet, your appendicular skeleton is just a masterpiece of functional design. It really does tell a story of evolution, of trade-offs, of adaptation, all written in bone. And so the final question I'll leave you with is this: what does your skeleton say about you?